In a distant galaxy, on the crowded and chaotic planet of Zorith, lived a young man named Kale. Kale was known for his sharp mind and kind heart, but his life was far from easy. Born into a poor family, he had always dreamed of adventure, exploration, and maybe, one day, finding someone who would love him for who he was. But destiny, it seemed, had other plans. Kale's life took a sudden, shocking turn one morning when a group of alien traders appeared at his home. They carried strange, glowing devices and wore armored suits that hissed with energy. With a voice cold as ice, the leader announced that Kale had been sold, not for riches, not for power, but for a simple, shocking price: 5 credits. 5 credits. For Kale, this was more than humiliating, it was terrifying. The traders explained that he was to marry an alien from a distant planet, a female whose appearance was said to frighten anyone who looked at her. The alien, named Vera, had rough, scaly skin, long clawed hands, and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. To Kale's family and neighbors, she was disgusting, a creature no human would ever consider as a companion. But Kale had no choice. The rules were clear: refusal meant exile, or worse. The journey to meet Vera was tense and silent. Kale sat in the back of the alien transport, watching the stars streak past, his mind racing. What kind of life awaited him? Could he ever see past her appearance? Could he survive this forced marriage with dignity? Every instinct screamed for him to run, but he knew running was impossible. When Kale finally arrived on Vera's homeworld, the sight that greeted him was like nothing he had ever imagined. The village was a mix of strange architecture, glowing plants, and creatures he could barely recognize. And there, standing in the center, was Vera. Her large eyes stared at him, cautious but calm. Her skin shimmered under the planet's twin suns, showing shades of green, blue, and silver. She was unlike anyone Kale had ever seen, and yet, there was a strange aura about her, something soft, almost sad. The moment of their forced union arrived. Kale's heart raced as he approached her, unsure how to act, unsure how she felt. Vera bowed her head politely, making no sound. The ceremony was simple but odd: rituals of her people, chants that echoed in Kale's ears, symbols that glowed with a soft light. He felt awkward, embarrassed, and strangely anxious. How could love exist in a union like this, forced and unwanted? As the ceremony ended, Kale and Vera were left alone in a small, dimly lit chamber. Kale could feel the tension in the air. Vera studied him silently, her eyes reflecting curiosity rather than fear or hatred. For the first time, Kale noticed something unexpected: a gentle grace in her movements, a quiet intelligence in her gaze, and a hint of sadness that made him pause. Could there be more to her than anyone had said? That night, Kale lay awake, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The alien world outside was alive with strange sounds: calls of distant creatures, the hum of energy flowing through the city, and the whispers of the wind through alien trees. Kale's mind kept returning to Vera. Was she really as disgusting as everyone claimed? Or was this a story told by people too afraid to understand something new? Little did Kale know, this forced marriage was only the beginning. Secrets of Vera's past, her hidden powers, and the real reason she had been sold for 5 credits would soon unravel, and change Kale's life forever. The adventure that awaited was far beyond anything he had imagined, filled with danger, mystery, and an unexpected chance for love in the most unlikely place. As the first light of the twin suns broke through the chamber window, Kale realized something: his life had changed forever. And though fear gripped him, a small spark of curiosity, and maybe something else, burned quietly inside. For the first time, Kale wondered if this so-called disgusting alien could become more than just a burden. Could she become the most important part of his life? The first days in Vera's world were strange and overwhelming for Kale. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light seemed alive, almost watching him. The villagers avoided them, whispering behind their hands, eyes full of judgment and fear. Kale could feel the weight of their stares, but it was not only the villagers who unsettled him. Vera herself remained an enigma, quiet, mysterious, and unlike anything Kale had ever known. Then, one evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a swirling violet, Kale noticed something impossible. Vera was not merely disgusting, as the traders had claimed, she had a strange aura, like fire hidden under ice. When she moved, the shadows around her shifted unnaturally, bending toward her as if recognizing her power. Kale's heart raced, not in fear, but in awe. That night, Kale couldn't sleep. He crept out of their small chamber, following a faint, glowing trail that led to a hidden courtyard. There, Vera stood in the middle of a circle etched with symbols Kale could not understand. Soft whispers rose from the ground, and the air seemed to hum with energy. Kale gasped silently. What was she doing? Vera sensed him immediately but did not turn. Kale, she said, her voice softer than he expected, you should not be here. This is not for your eyes. But Kale stepped closer, drawn by a mix of fear and fascination. What is it? He asked. Why do you have powers like this? Everyone says you're different. Her eyes glimmered with a mix of sadness and caution. Different, she repeated, almost bitterly. I am not meant to be understood, and yet, perhaps, I was meant to meet you. Kale froze. Her words struck him strangely, almost like a secret only he could uncover. He wanted to ask more, to know why she was sold, why she lived alone in the shadows of the village, but before he could, a sudden, chilling sound tore through the courtyard. A scream, a low, unnatural, and powerful scream, echoed across the village. The ground shook beneath their feet, and glowing tendrils of energy shot into the sky. Vera's calm demeanor changed instantly. Her eyes flared bright, her claws extending slightly, and a wave of energy pulsed around her. Kale, stay back, she shouted, her voice commanding and terrifying all at once. But Kale, despite his fear, stepped forward. He could not leave her alone. From the shadows, creatures emerged, monstrous beings with jagged limbs, glowing eyes, and a stench that burned Kale's nose. Villagers ran screaming, but Vera stood her ground. She moved like lightning, her claws slicing through the creatures with deadly precision, energy pulsing from her every strike. Kale watched, amazed, as the alien he had been told to fear revealed strength, courage, and something else, something deeply human in her fierce protection. When the last creature fell, the courtyard went silent. Vera turned to Kale, breathing heavily, her eyes softening once more. Do you see now? She whispered. This world, this life, it is dangerous. And I am not what they think. Kale, shaken but inspired, nodded. For the first time, he saw her not as disgusting, not as the alien everyone feared, but as someone extraordinary. Someone he could respect, someone he might even come to trust. His fear slowly transformed into fascination, curiosity, and a strange sense of connection. That night, as they returned to their chamber, Kale could not stop thinking about what he had witnessed. Vera had power, yes, but more than that, she had depth, emotion, and secrets he desperately wanted to understand. And he realized something terrifying and exciting at the same time: this forced marriage might not just be a punishment, it might be the beginning of something he had never imagined. Little did Kale know, this was only the first hint of a far greater mystery. Vera's powers were tied to secrets that could shake the entire galaxy. And the very creatures they had just fought were only a small warning of the dangers that lay ahead. Kale's life, and the fragile bond forming between him and Vera, would be tested in ways he could never have predicted. As Kale drifted into uneasy sleep, the faint glow of Vera's aura illuminated the chamber. He realized, for the first time, that fear and fascination were not opposites, they were intertwined. And he wondered, with a mix of dread and excitement, what tomorrow would bring. The morning sun rose over Vera's alien village, painting the sky with sharp streaks of violet and gold. Kale awoke to a silence heavier than usual. Something was wrong. Even the usual hum of the alien city felt muted, tense, like it was holding its breath. Vera was already awake, sitting by the chamber window, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. Kale noticed her hands were trembling, though she tried to hide it. "Vera, what's happening?" he asked, his voice cautious. She didn't answer immediately, only glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "The creatures we fought, they were only scouts. Something far older, far darker is coming." Her words made Kale's stomach twist. He had thought the danger was over, but now the weight of an unseen threat pressed down on him. Before he could question her further, a loud alarm echoed through the village. Red lights flashed across the streets, casting long, terrifying shadows. Vera grabbed Kale's arm. "We have to leave. Now." They ran through narrow, twisting alleys, Kale stumbling over glowing roots and jagged stones. Behind them, faint roars shook the ground. The creatures were multiplying, their numbers growing faster than Kale had imagined possible. But Vera moved with a confidence and power that stunned him. Her claws slashed through the air, sending blasts of energy that disintegrated attackers instantly. Kale wanted to fight, to help, but he realized quickly that Vera didn't need him to fight. She needed him to trust her. And for the first time, Kale felt a deep respect, bordering on awe, for the alien he had once feared. Finally, they reached a hidden passage, a tunnel carved deep into the glowing cliffs outside the village. The walls pulsed with strange energy, almost alive, guiding them deeper. "Where does this lead?" Kale asked, breathless. Vera didn't answer immediately. She hesitated, then whispered, "To the truth I have hidden for so long." As they moved deeper, Kale felt the air change. It grew heavy, almost electric. Shadows danced in strange patterns along the walls, and the faint whisper of voices echoed from nowhere. Suddenly, they entered a massive underground chamber, filled with ancient alien machinery that hummed and vibrated with power. Kale's eyes widened. What is all this?" Vera turned to him, her expression serious, almost vulnerable. "This is my family's legacy, and my curse." She walked toward a central console, her glowing claws tracing symbols along its surface. "Long ago, my ancestors were guardians of a power so dangerous that even the strongest civilizations feared it. I inherited it, but it came with a price: banishment, fear, and now, this marriage." Kale tried to process her words. "So, the villagers weren't lying about you being different. But why were you sold for 5 credits? Why me?" Vera's eyes softened, her voice almost a whisper. "Because the galaxy tests its bonds in the strangest ways. You, Kale, are not here by accident. Somehow, fate chose you to see me not as a monster, but as I truly am." Before Kale could respond, the chamber shook violently. The ground split in front of them, and a massive creature emerged from the shadows, a creature older than anything Kale had imagined, with eyes that burned like molten gold and tendrils that crackled with raw energy. Vera stepped in front of Kale instinctively. "Stay behind me," she commanded. But Kale refused. He realized, with a thrill he could not explain, that he wanted to fight by her side, not because he had to, but because he believed in her. The creature roared, sending a shockwave that shook the entire chamber. Vera's aura flared, lighting up the room like a star. Kale felt the air thrum with energy, his heart pounding in time with hers. In that moment, he understood something powerful: this was no ordinary alien, no ordinary marriage, no ordinary life. Every danger, every secret, every fear had led him here, for a reason. The battle began. Vera moved with unmatched grace and strength, but the creature was intelligent, cunning, and terrifyingly fast. Kale struggled to keep up, dodging tendrils and falling debris. Yet, despite the chaos, a bond began to form, not through words, but through trust, through shared survival, through the recognition of each other's courage. As the creature roared again, Kale caught Vera's gaze. For the first time, he saw something beyond power, something vulnerable, something human. And without realizing it, he felt his fear transform into something else, a fierce, protective connection he could no longer ignore. When the dust settled, the creature had vanished, leaving the chamber in eerie silence. Kale leaned against a wall, exhausted, but alive. Vera approached him, her expression unreadable. "You survived," she said softly. "And you chose to trust me. That matters more than you know." Kale looked at her, breathing heavily. He didn't have the words to respond. He only knew one thing: this forced marriage, this disgusting alien, was no longer just a challenge or punishment. It was the beginning of a journey that would change everything: his life, his heart, and perhaps even the fate of the galaxy. The underground chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of Vera's glowing aura. Kale's heart still pounded from the battle with the ancient creature. He could feel the lingering energy in the air, a pulse that seemed alive, almost whispering secrets he could not yet understand. Vera turned to him, her eyes softer now but filled with a strange intensity. "Kale, you have no idea what we just faced," she said. "That creature was a sentinel, a protector of something far older than this planet. And it sensed something in you, something important." Kale frowned, confused and exhausted. "Important? Me? Why would it care about me?" Vera shook her head, her long fingers tracing symbols in the air that glowed faintly. "Because, Kale, you are tied to this legacy in ways you cannot yet see. You were chosen, not by chance, but by forces older than you or me." Before Kale could respond, a sudden tremor shook the chamber. The walls cracked, and glowing fissures appeared across the floor. Dust and energy particles filled the air. Something massive was approaching from below, something far more dangerous than anything Kale had encountered. Vera grabbed his hand firmly. "We must go deeper," she said urgently. "There is a sanctuary, a place hidden from all who wish to harm us. But getting there will not be easy." They ran through narrow tunnels carved into the living rock. The air grew thicker, harder to breathe, and the faint whispers of the chamber followed them, like voices warning them to turn back. Kale could feel a strange connection forming with Vera, not just through fear or danger, but through trust. Every glance, every step, every brush of her hand sent a shiver through him, not fear, but something deeper, something he could not name. Finally, they reached a massive door, engraved with alien runes that pulsed like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Vera placed her hands on the symbols, muttering words in a language Kale could not understand. The door trembled, then slowly opened, revealing a hidden world inside: lush, glowing forests under a sky of shifting colors, with rivers of light flowing like liquid stars. Kale gasped. He had never seen such beauty. It was peaceful, yet charged with energy, almost alive. This is incredible," he whispered. Vera's expression was unreadable. "It is beautiful, yes, but it is not safe. Whoever controls the forces above will stop at nothing to reach this place. And now, they know we survived." Before Kale could ask who they were, a sudden flash of light blinded them. Shadowy figures appeared at the edge of the sanctuary, alien hunters, cloaked and armed with weapons pulsing with dark energy. Kale's stomach twisted. They were outnumbered, and there was no way out. Vera stepped forward, her aura flaring like a living storm. "Kale, stay close. Watch and learn, but do not interfere unless I tell you." The hunters advanced, moving silently yet with deadly intent. Vera's power surged, sending bolts of energy that tore through the attackers, but new ones emerged as if from thin air. Kale realized that this battle would not be quick, nor simple. Every strike, every move could determine their survival, or their end. Amid the chaos, Kale noticed something astonishing. Vera's movements were not just powerful, they were elegant, almost graceful, like a dance. Her energy seemed alive, shaping the environment itself. He realized, with a mix of awe and fear, that the alien everyone had called disgusting was not only deadly but extraordinary, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Suddenly, a voice echoed in Cale's mind, not through sound, but as if thought itself had been planted there. Cale, trust her. You are part of this. You must awaken. Cale froze, trying to make sense of the voice. Could it be Vera? Or something else? Before he could decide, one of the hunters lunged at him. Instinct took over. He grabbed a glowing shard of crystal from the ground and blocked the attack. The shard pulsed with energy, reacting to him as if recognizing his presence. Vera noticed immediately. Cale, the bond is forming. Trust yourself, she shouted, deflecting another attack with her glowing claws. As the battle raged, Cale felt a surge of strength and clarity he had never experienced. The fear that had gripped him since the forced marriage melted away, replaced with something fierce, something protective, something that connected him to Vera in ways words could not describe. When the last hunter fell, the sanctuary returned to silence, but Cale knew this was only the beginning. Vera turned to him, her glowing eyes softening. You've changed, she said. The bond between us, it is growing stronger. And soon, you will understand why we were brought together. Cale looked at her, exhausted but exhilarated. He had survived monsters, ancient powers, and the judgment of the galaxy itself. And yet, he felt something far more powerful growing within him, a connection to Vera, a bond that could turn fear into trust, and maybe, into love. Little did they know, far above the sanctuary, unseen eyes watched, plotting their next move. The galaxy was far from done testing them. And the next challenge would demand more than strength or courage, it would demand loyalty, sacrifice, and a willingness to embrace the impossible. The sanctuary was silent, yet the tension in the air was unbearable. Cale could feel it in every nerve, every breath. Something was coming, something far worse than the hunters, something that had been waiting for them all along. Vera stood at the edge of the glowing forest, her aura pulsing violently. Her eyes, normally soft in private, now burned with a mixture of fear and determination. Cale, what I'm about to show you, may change everything you think you know about me, about us, about the galaxy itself, she whispered. Cale's stomach twisted. Show me what? What is it? Vera led him deeper into the forest. The trees shimmered like living glass, and strange creatures scuttled through the shadows, their eyes reflecting the light like tiny stars. Eventually, they reached a massive structure, carved out of black crystal and humming with an energy so intense Cale felt it in his chest. This, Vera said, her voice trembling slightly, is the heart of my world. My ancestors protected it for centuries, but it also holds a secret, a power so dangerous that it could destroy entire planets. And the creature we fought, its purpose was to guard this secret from anyone unworthy. Cale's eyes widened. So, the battle wasn't just random? It was about this place? Vera nodded. Yes. And now, they know we are here. The hunters were just a warning. The real threat is coming, an ancient being that desires this power. And if it succeeds, everything we know, everything we love, will be destroyed. Suddenly, the black crystal trembled. A deep, echoing growl filled the air, vibrating through Cale's bones. From the shadows emerged a colossal figure, taller than the sanctuary itself, with eyes that glowed like molten lava and wings that spanned the chamber. Its voice, when it spoke, was like the echo of the universe itself. You have taken what is mine. Prepare to be judged. Cale froze. Fear surged through him, yet he felt an unfamiliar pull toward Vera. She grabbed his hand firmly. Cale, stay close. We survive this together. The being attacked with terrifying speed, each movement bending space around it. Vera met its strikes with blinding energy, her aura exploding in waves that reshaped the sanctuary. Kale watched, amazed, realizing that the alien he had been told to fear was not only extraordinary, she was indispensable, a force of nature in her own right. But then, the being focused on Kale. Its glowing eyes locked onto him, and Kale felt an invisible force pressing down, threatening to crush his very soul. He staggered, fear clawing at him, but Vera's voice cut through the chaos. Kale. Remember the bond. Trust it. Trust me. Kale closed his eyes and reached deep inside himself. For the first time, he sensed something he had never felt before, a spark, a connection that linked him to Vera, not just emotionally, but in a way that defied logic. The energy from the sanctuary responded to him, glowing brighter, pulsing with his heartbeat. Vera's aura flared, intertwining with his. Together, they unleashed a wave of energy so powerful it shook the chamber, forcing the colossal being back. Kale could feel it, the bond between them was no longer just trust or fear. It was strength, unity, and something else, something closer to love. After what felt like hours, the being retreated into the shadows, its voice echoing one last warning: "This is not over, you will face me again." The chamber shook violently as it vanished, leaving Kale and Vera panting, exhausted, yet alive. Kale collapsed to the ground, looking at Vera with awe. I didn't know I could feel this power, he admitted. Or this connection. Vera knelt beside him, placing her hand on his chest. Neither did I. You are stronger than anyone imagined. Stronger than even you realize. And this bond, it's just the beginning. Together, we can face anything. But we must learn fast, because the galaxy, the entire galaxy, will not leave us in peace for long. Kale nodded slowly, the reality of their situation sinking in. The forced marriage he had once dreaded was now more than survival, it was a partnership, a bond forged in danger, trust, and the unspoken recognition that their fates were intertwined. As they looked toward the horizon of the glowing sanctuary, a sense of determination settled over Kale. The challenges ahead would be greater, the dangers deadlier, and the choices more impossible than anything he had faced. But one thing was certain: whatever the galaxy threw at them, they would face it together. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the ancient being was already plotting its next move. The sanctuary was calm for only a brief moment. Kale and Vera had barely begun to catch their breath when an eerie vibration shook the ground beneath them. The air rippled like a storm approaching, though the twin suns above still shone brightly. Kale's instincts screamed danger. Something was coming, and it was closer than they had imagined. Vera's eyes narrowed. "It knows we are growing stronger," she said, her voice low and tense. "The Ancient One, it senses the bond between us. That bond is dangerous to it. It will stop at nothing to destroy us." Before Kale could ask what she meant, the shadows around the sanctuary deepened. From the darkness emerged a fleet of alien warships, hovering silently like predatory birds. Their shapes were jagged, and energy weapons glowed ominously, aimed directly at the sanctuary. Kale's stomach twisted. They were completely outnumbered. Vera grabbed his arm, pulling him close. "We have no choice," she said. "We must leave the sanctuary. But first, you must learn to wield the power you unlocked. It will be the only thing keeping us alive." Kale swallowed hard, fear clawing at him. He had never imagined that a simple bond could hold such power, but standing beside Vera, feeling the energy coursing through her, he sensed that the spark within himself could grow into something far greater. For hours, Vera trained him in the underground sanctuary, guiding his thoughts, teaching him to focus, to feel the energy rather than fear it. Every pulse of light, every vibration in the crystal walls responded to his heartbeat. Slowly, Kale realized he was not just following Vera, he was becoming part of the energy, part of the sanctuary itself. Then, as night fell, a terrifying scream echoed across the sky. The warships opened fire, energy beams tearing through the glowing forest. Trees shattered, rivers of light boiled, and creatures fled in panic. Kale and Vera stood at the edge of the sanctuary, hands clasped, ready to face the incoming attack. But then, something even more shocking happened. The ancient being from before, larger, more terrifying, with wings spanning the horizon, descended from the sky. Its molten eyes locked onto Kale, and its voice echoed in his mind, "You were warned, and yet you awaken the forbidden. Now you will suffer." Kale felt an invisible force pulling at him, trying to separate him from Vera, to extinguish the bond they had forged. Panic surged, but Vera's voice pierced through, "Kale. Fight it. Trust us. Trust the bond." He closed his eyes, focusing on the memory of their first battle, their first connection, the trust that had grown between them. Slowly, he felt the energy within him surge, intertwining with Vera's aura. The sanctuary itself seemed to respond, shimmering with protective light. Together, they became a single force, a glowing storm of energy and determination. The ancient being roared, its power shaking the heavens. Energy beams collided, creating blinding explosions. Kale felt himself lifted into the air, thrown backward by the sheer force, but he held on, his mind locked onto Vera's presence. Every pulse of her aura, every whisper in her voice, became a lifeline. Then came the moment of truth. Kale realized something extraordinary. The bond between them was not just emotional, not just powerful, it was transformative. It could bend reality, reshape the battlefield, and even influence the minds of their enemies. The fear that had gripped him since the forced marriage was gone, replaced with something stronger: courage, unity, and love. With a final, synchronized strike, Kale and Vera unleashed a torrent of energy that shook the warships, ripped through the ancient being's defenses, and sent shockwaves across the landscape. The attackers scattered, retreating in confusion and fear. The ancient being let out a deafening roar and vanished into the cosmos, leaving Kale and Vera standing amidst the glowing ruins of the sanctuary, exhausted but victorious. As Kale caught his breath, he realized something else, something more personal. Through the chaos, the fear, and the battles, he had seen Vera not as the alien everyone feared, not as the disgusting creature he was forced to marry, but as someone extraordinary. Brave, strong, vulnerable, and yet infinitely human in her determination to survive and protect. Vera turned to him, her glowing eyes reflecting the remnants of energy from their battle. "Kale," she said softly, "you have grown. You are no longer just a witness to my power. You are part of it, part of me. And together, we can face anything." Kale reached for her hand, his fingers brushing against hers. For the first time, the fear and awkwardness of their forced marriage vanished completely. "Vera. I trust you. I believe in you, and in us," he whispered. Above them, the stars shifted, and somewhere, deep in the darkness of space, a new force stirred, watching, waiting, and ready to challenge them once again. The final test was coming. And Kale and Vera would need every ounce of courage, every spark of their bond, to survive what awaited. The sky above the sanctuary was torn in colors no human eye had seen before. Violet lightning crackled across clouds that shimmered like molten crystal. Kale and Vera stood at the edge of the glowing forest, side by side, hearts pounding, knowing the final battle had come. The ancient being that had haunted their lives loomed above them, larger and more terrifying than ever, its eyes burning like molten suns. "You've grown strong, Kale," Vera whispered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "But this is the ultimate test. If we fail, everything will be destroyed. Not just us. The galaxy." Kale swallowed hard, gripping her hand. Fear surged through him, but it was no longer paralyzing. It fueled him, sharpened his focus, and connected him to Vera in ways words could not express. "I'm ready," he said. "With you." The ancient being descended with blinding speed, its shadow swallowing the sanctuary. Energy waves radiated from it, tearing through the glowing trees, making rivers boil and stones shatter. Cale felt the bond between him and Vera pulse violently, alive, unbreakable, and stronger than anything he had ever known. Vera stepped forward, aura blazing, her claws glowing like living lightning. "Together," she said. Cale nodded, and the moment their hands touched, a surge of power erupted, wrapping them both in a cocoon of brilliant light. The sanctuary itself seemed to respond, bending, twisting, and amplifying their energy. The being roared, unleashing tendrils of energy that threatened to crush them, but Cale and Vera moved as one. Every fear, every doubt melted away. They were no longer just human and alien, they were a single force, unstoppable, unyielding. Cale realized that the bond he had once feared, the connection that had grown through every danger, was now a weapon, a shield, and a promise all at once. The ancient being lunged, but Vera and Cale struck together. Their combined energy surged outward, colliding with the creature in a storm of light and power. The ground shook violently, fragments of crystal and earth rising into the air. Cale could feel his heartbeat syncing with Vera's, their energy intertwined, stronger than the being's raw power. Suddenly, the being spoke, not with a roar, but with a voice that echoed inside Cale's mind. "You think this bond can save you? You cannot control what you do not understand." Cale's eyes widened. But then, clarity hit him. He realized the being was right, he could not control the galaxy, the ancient powers, or even the dangers ahead. What he could do was trust, completely, in the bond he shared with Vera. And with that trust, the impossible became possible. He reached deeper into the connection than ever before, sending a pulse of energy through Vera, through the sanctuary, and into the very being itself. The creature staggered, confused, its massive form faltering under the unexpected force. Cale felt Vera's mind touch his, steadying him, urging him forward. Together, they pushed with everything they had: fear, hope, love, and sheer determination. The being let out a final, ear-splitting scream as the energy overwhelmed it. Then, in a blinding explosion of light, it vanished. The sky cleared, the rivers of glowing light settled, and the sanctuary trembled but remained intact. Cale and Vera collapsed, breathing heavily, exhausted but victorious. Cale looked at Vera, his chest rising and falling with hers. The fear, the tension, the hatred others had placed on her, all of it faded away in that moment. She was not disgusting. She was extraordinary, brave, and beautiful in ways no one had ever seen. Vera reached for him, her glowing eyes soft and warm. "Cale, you trusted me when everyone else feared me. You saw beyond what the galaxy called me, and that makes you extraordinary too." Cale smiled weakly. "I didn't just see you, Vera. I saw us. And I couldn't imagine facing this without you." For the first time, the bond between them was no longer just survival or trust. It was love, raw, unbreakable, and powerful. And in that moment, Cale understood what the galaxy had been trying to teach him, that true connection, forged in danger and trust, could conquer anything, even ancient beings, impossible odds, and the fear of the unknown. As the twin moons rose over the sanctuary, their light reflected on Cale and Vera's joined hands. Somewhere deep in the cosmos, the universe seemed to pause, acknowledging the strength of their bond. They had survived. They had grown. And together, they were unstoppable. The galaxy still held secrets, dangers, and mysteries. But Cale no longer feared them. With Vera by his side, he knew they could face anything. The forced marriage that had once felt like a curse had become a destiny, a love story that would echo across worlds, a bond that no force, no being, no galaxy, could ever break. And as they looked at each other, the last traces of fear and doubt melted away. Together, they were not just survivors. They were legends in the making.